welcome. We finally started episode 2. Hooray!
Hooray!
It's Geeks in Suits. I am Tyler Stutzman. Thank you for joining us for this episode.
Hello, I'm Chase Gerber. Welcome to episode 2. I am your co-host along with Tyler here.
I'm Ben Gerber. This episode is...
Cough.
It's nothing.
KOF.
This episode is titled The Color Purple.
The color purple.
The color purple. For very obvious reasons.
For obvious reasons
If you don't
tonight.
know.
It could have something to do with the purple wedding. First of all, before we get to Game of Thrones, I just want to acknowledge the fact to everyone that commented, whether it was on statuses for me or statuses for you guys or
Mostly
whatever.
statuses for you.
Yeah, mostly statuses for me. I don't know why I was the most popular of the people that posted this video.
I don't know, man. Hey.
Whatever. We wore suits tonight, or at least kind of.
Kind of.
We dressed up for tonight.
We took it to the next.
Yeah,
You know,
I mean,
we're not
next
there
week-
yet.
Chase, surprisingly of all people, Chase, even though he's wearing athletic shorts, Chase is wearing
Hey.
a
The
tie.
tie. He has
He's
the
got
one
tie.
tie.
Like tie.
That's
a
But
big step
he
for
counters
me.
it with the shorts, though.
obviously, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
it's amazing top. Just whatever about it. But still, you wore the tie. That's awesome, and
Mhm.
so we're working towards being
We're climbing the ladder.
geeks in suits, not just geeks.
Geeks.
I guess is
We
the
were
best way to put it.
Kind of.
We were
insane.
like scraping the bottom of the bowl the first
I
episode.
know. I mean, I was wearing a beanie.
I was in a
hoodie, yeah.
That's what the pilot's for.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
for experimenting with this
Yeah,
stuff,
hey.
and
We still
and
are.
when people talk about that and it's like request it, whatever. But anyways, we the
Yeah.
most important thing for this week was that after I don't want to say last week because it was forever
3
ago.
weeks ago.
Yeah,
three
At
weeks
least.
ago,
At least.
We had our first podcast, and it was like an hour and a half long.
It was really
Yeah.
long.
It was fun, and I felt like we got off topic a couple times, but for the most part, everything made sense.
Yeah.
But it was still an hour and
I
a half
think we
long.
realized most people wouldn't be watching it for that long.
Yeah, so this week we're trying
We're
to...
gonna shorten it down a little bit.
Yeah!
Gonna try and
At
cut it in
least.
about half.
Just abbreviate it. Take it to about 45.
There's a very good chance we'll be going at least a few minutes over of that 45
Yeah,
minute mark.
the
but
goal from pretty much from
we
here
want to
on
cut it
out-
down under
yeah,
an hour.
is try and keep it under an hour from here on out. Like
I'd
we
say so.
learned,
That's pretty
90
easy,
minutes
yeah.
is just 90 minutes is a lot.
Yeah.
And especially to watch a video. Like if it's an audio podcast, which we've experimented with before, obviously you and
Yeah.
I have.
It can be long.
It can be long, and a 90-minute podcast. I listen to 90-minute podcasts regularly in my car, but they're audio podcasts.
Yeah.
For it to be a
There's
video
difference.
podcast where it's all
Because
the
we
different
have
videos.
to.
And you're sitting there.
Yeah.
We
watching
tried
it.
audio, but
You
you have
need-
to pay
Yeah.
stupid money
Yeah.
for it.
So we're
God
trying to keep
forbid
it
we
under
do that.
45 minutes, and obviously a 26-minute intro like we're doing right now isn't helping.
No.
Mhm.
But
So
for everyone who watched episode 1, sorry that we did an hour and a half. We're gonna keep it to under an hour
Yeah.
from now on, or at least completely try to.
yeah.
So
So why don't we just jump into our first topic?
Let's go.
yes,
Yeah,
thank you
fire.
for kidding me on top.
First 2 weeks of Game of Thrones just came out.
They're in the books.
They are in the books, and it started
They-
off with a
Technically,
bang.
they've been in.
Yeah,
books,
they've been in the
but-
books.
They've been in the books,
But,
and I
yeah.
think we are all very excited about these 2 episodes so far. Should we start with episode 1, I guess?
Yes.
Let's start with episode 1. So, I think the highlight for pretty much everyone was probably the Arya and Hound.
The very last scene.
The
Oh,
very
yeah.
last scene. I think that's definitely the highlight. So I guess we could start with that, I guess.
I mean, it was awesome, and I liked that scene a lot, and I'm gonna jump away a little bit from that, but
Yeah.
just because of how much I like the character, I was just ridiculously excited for Oberyn Martell.
Yes, definitely.
But
definitely.
we'll jump to that in a minute.
We'll get there in a
Um,
minute. Let's stay
but-
with Arya and the
Yeah,
Hound.
Arya
right
and the
off
Hound,
bat.
like that. It's amazing to me how many memes have come from that. scene. Like,
Yeah.
F the king with
Yes.
the sunglasses.
yeah, and just
The
talking
Leroy
about
Jenkins,
the Leroy
I
Jenkins
still
one.
have
Jimmy
chicken.
Jimmy Kimmel did a whole KFC mock commercial joke
Yeah.
with the Hound talking about how he's gonna have to eat every freaking chicken in this place. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's-
there's been a lot stemming. I think that was I guess besides the second episode. Obviously, what happens at the end. That's been the most popular scene besides that.
Yeah,
Well, we'll
besides
get
for the
there.
end of season, or besides for the end of episode
Yeah.
2. But I feel like not just amongst our group of friends that watch the show with us that are show watchers only, but it seems like a lot of people are like the most excited for Arya and the Hound
Yes, it's a-
scenes from here forward.
Buddy
They're not-
cop scene
Yeah.
It's
shows that
exactly
they
Perfect
want
right.
duo.
Yeah.
Perfect duo.
And
I mean-
it's one you would have never seen coming if you
No,
were
it's
as a
really
show
not.
or even as a book reader.
Even in the book,
You know, they're good together. But
Yeah.
The time they do spend together, you just don't get to see that sort of buddy interaction, or you just don't get that sense from reading the book. You feel like Arya's just tagging along with this horrible giant murderer guy.
And the Hound has really come into his own. Like I
Yes.
felt like in the first season and in the first book too, like he wasn't given a lot of time to really
No.
kind of flesh the character out. And then in the second season,
Yeah.
and even the second book, he just takes off. And it's amazing how this character in the first season was as hated as he was.
Yeah.
And now it's like
He was
because
he was
of
a
who
real,
he's associated with.
he was a real dick.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I think the biggest difference is he was the wrong dick to the wrong people.
Yeah.
And now it's turned around and he's the right dick to the right people.
It's true.
It's-
yeah.
yeah.
I
It's
honestly
all situational.
I don't think his personality has really changed at all. I think it's just who he directs it towards and realizes who it should be taken out on.
Yeah. And it's also interesting to think about his brother, who
the mountain.
The mountain.
we have not seen since season 1.
2.
Two.
Season
Technically.
two,
Yeah.
season 2.
He was
You're right,
recast.
you're right.
I mean, he might as well not have
There
even
were
been.
what,
Yeah.
maybe 3 scenes with him.
Either
Yeah.
way, there's nothing as important as his return in season 4.
Yeah.
I really
And-
liked how in the first episode he was talked about by Oberyn Martell. He was talked about in the inn by the Hound and Polliver.
Mm-hmm.
It was almost like he's kind of this
Yeah.
stuff of legend right now. You know, we
Yeah.
haven't
Make
seen
him
him for a
known
while,
again. Yeah.
but just vocally we're hearing, about all these horrible things he did and how brutal of a human being and
Yeah.
terrible human being he is.
You raped her. You murdered her.
Stop.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway.
We're gonna cut that probably.
So yeah, I think that Arya and
it doesn't mean anything.
Arya and Hound was definitely the highlight, especially Arya coming back to Polliver. I'll pick your teeth with it.
Yeah.
Broke your leg there,
Which
boy.
is different than the book.
It is
It is.
different, but it's
But
also
it-
just as awesome.
It is.
They kind of
It
just
really
switched
is.
the roles with it, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I believe she kills Polliver at Harrenhal, and then it turns around she kills the Tickler
Yeah.
in that situation.
Right.
I mean, it works out.
It makes
I'm
me
very happy
wonder
with the
if
result.
that was just a way of keeping book readers on their feet as they watch
It
the
might
show.
have been.
I
'Cause-
think that they're gonna do that a lot to us. This
Yeah.
year. The way some of the actors have talked, how this season diverts from the books more than any other
Which
season before.
freaks me out a little bit
Yeah.
because
It gets
of
me a
how
little scared.
much is happening
Yeah.
in the next. Like, I talked with a buddy of mine last night about the books and how the last 300 pages of Storm is just this unbelievable
Crap.
wasteland of
Oh,
things
my
happening
goodness. Yeah.
all
Destruction.
over
Oh,
the
my
Seven
goodness.
Kingdoms. And it legitimately makes me wonder, like, what can they change for the better?
What
like,
do they need to?
yeah,
change?
what do they need to change? Like,
Yeah.
there's so much perfect stuff
Mhm.
Yeah.
in the books that's like, I understand, like, changing some stuff for extra drama on the
Whether
show.
it's
or-
dialogue, or
yeah, just simple
little
stuff
things
like that. Like the in episode 1, to go back to that, the scene when Jaime Lannister is looking at the Kingsguard book, and in the book it's obviously just him and he's just reading it, but in the show it's Joffrey
Yeah.
there looking at, like, that makes sense for
Like,
changing,
yeah.
for dramatization, and also for making you think Joffrey's a dick even more
Yeah,
than,
even
than
more.
already.
They
Oh,
they only
man.
had 2 episodes. They squeezed
Yeah.
in as much as they could.
Yeah.
But going back to that Arya thing, now that I think about the reason they changed it, I believe in Storm of Swords, the book, she gets Needleback just kind of from some random straggler.
That's what I thought too.
That's what I remember, and this
it wasn't
way,
as exciting.
It wasn't as
Yeah.
exciting. This
Yeah.
way, she comes back to the guy that stole it from her and gets revenge on him. And
With
And there's-
the sword.
There's
itself.
one thing about Jon Snow that Chase and I have discussed about them possibly moving it forward in the series.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
To add for drama.
Yeah.
Which probably will happen.
Yeah, and it makes sense why it would happen in the show. It could easily wait, but at the same time you could push it forward and it makes sense. And that's just one of those little things that, like, as long as it's kind of sticks with the overall theme of the book and
it doesn't
or events that happen in the book, like, it doesn't, unless it's like if they had pushed, and this is something we might have to touch on, if they had pushed the Purple Wedding farther back, like that, 4 or 5, even to like the series or the season finale, like, to really get you excited, like, this finally happened, then it eliminates so much of what happens the rest of this season.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. So I don't know. Because now I'm really focused on that.
Let's stop there.
Is there anything else in episode 1 that we need to touch on?
We need to touch on before we get to the Red Viper. I know, because they're two of the most popular characters. Let's talk a little bit. Let's just touch on Jon Snow and Daenerys.
Okay.
We didn't see them in episode 2. We only saw a little bit of them in episode 1.
Yeah.
So I mean, I don't know. Let's start with Jon Snow. He has one scene, I think. It's a very good scene. With Alistair Thorne. Alistair Thorne is back. And
as is Janos Slynt. Janos absolutely owns him in 5 minutes.
It establishes that 2 of the biggest douchebags that are not in King's Landing have returned to the Game of Thrones series.
Yes, they have.
They've been gone since, season 2?
Yeah, Alistair
Thorne.
Janos Slynt's in season 2, Alistair Thorne's in season 1. Yep. But either way, we have... and it was perfect to kind of set them up as antagonists.
Because they're going to butt heads with Jon Snow a lot during this season, I think.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, a very good scene. Jon Snow absolutely owns Janos Slynt.
It was a good scene for Kit Harington.
It was a very good scene. I really liked the opening scene with Jon Snow.
That's one thing I read about and even thought about as I watched it. Like, Kit Harington, it seems like from season 1 till now,
it looked like he grew up.
Has really grown up and really understood that the role of Jon Snow is a big one.
And
it's about to change.
And it's going to be very different this season.
It's no more kicking it in the snow with wildlings and scurrying from here to there.
It is back to the wall. And things get hectic.
And he has got to be a man this season. And
I'm sure he will be.
And it looked, if anything from episode 1 was an indication, I'm not worried. Because he really seemed into that scene and very... I guess, able in that scene.
Yeah.
But then with Daenerys,
let's get to her.
2 separate scenes.
I think she had like 3, actually.
Was it 3?
I don't know. She did have...
It was a mix.
Yeah, it was kind of just scattered around.
And
her story and
2 or 3 scenes that were like 2 minutes long.
Yeah. And I mean, the rest of her story in Storm of Swords... The rest of her story in Storm of Swords is not... I mean, it's not that strong.
It's basically
the strongest part has happened already.
It's like Bran in episode 2. It seems like by the end of the 4th season of the show, we're gonna be into Dance with Dragons stuff for both of these characters. And we're not quite there with Dany because there's obviously still a big thing that happens with
probably
Dany
next
week,
episode.
I believe.
That appears to be happening next week that we have not seen yet, however. And that happens in the book well before this time.
But they're stretching it up a lot.
Again, dramatization.
I know. I think I read the IGN review, and I have to agree with it. It was kind of weird seeing Daenerys' scenes being kind of the weakest of the episode. Because we're used to having such a great story with her.
Also, it was weird to get used to the new Dario.
Yeah, that's what I was going to bring up. What do you guys think about the new Dario? We've only seen him in 2 scenes.
Well...
I mean, I know a lot of people have been judging him, like, saying he's not right.
It's 1 episode, though.
Exactly.
And the other guy was such a cocky douchebag.
But
which is perfect.
That's how he was supposed to be.
It was perfect.
Yeah.
And that's the problem.
This guy
was perfect.
Exactly. But this guy looks like he fits in with the Northmore. He's got the scraggly, lumberjack beard. And I didn't think it was going to be as annoying to me as it was. But it just came off as just
Yeah.
jarring.
Well, I
in my
think
head.
one thing that was overrated about the first guy, like, just his voice and the way he talked, like...
was seductive.
Yeah,
almost.
it was so... I can't even
he
describe what
confident.
it was like. Yeah.
He seemed confident.
Yeah.
And then
And I know-
this guy is just here. He's like, I'm here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Michael Huisman or whatever.
I'm very interested to see how they're going to try and establish this guy as the new Dario Naharis.
I think
They said his name at least half a dozen times when they were
Yeah,
trying.
I mean, you gotta
Like,
get
you could
across.
tell they
hey,
were
Where's
really-
Dario Naharis?
You could
There's
really
Dario
tell.
Naharis.
Hi, Dario Naharis. They were really trying to emphasize, that's that guy from last season.
Yeah, that was blonde last year and baby faced.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's one episode. It's 2 scenes.
Yeah, I mean, we
we'll
can't
see
judge
how
too
it
much.
goes.
Yeah,
After
plenty more to come.
I mean, we only saw last season's Dario for what, like
2 episodes.
Yeah, it was
3 episodes.
It was
It was
3. It was 2 or 3.
It
episodes.
might as well have been 2
Technically
episodes.
2, because the last Daenerys scene in the last
That was the
episode,
only
that was
one.
literally 3
he
minutes.
didn't do
He
anything.
was in
And
it.
that was her
He
just-
didn't act. He was
Yeah.
in it.
That was just her at crowd surfing.
But I mean, it was enough to win people over. So
It's true. Again, he had that air of
he had that
cockiness
swagger.
and that's one thing about this Dario that we haven't seen. It's kind of even the same. Like he had the one scene where he's betting with Grey Worm, and then the next scene he's not
giving
really
her flowers.
He's
or
flirting
something.
with it. Yeah, it didn't even give off that cocky, seductive vibe.
Yeah.
It just showed that he kind of
It's
wants to be with her.
Yeah.
He's just like, here's a flower.
Yeah,
he can have it if
and
you want.
and
It wasn't.
that's what you don't want with Dario Naharis is somebody who isn't confident and seems like he's trying to win the girl as opposed to like having the girl wrapped around his finger.
Yeah.
Right? And that's how the other guy seemed. Like
Right.
I mean the old act, I know it was just Matt like kind of because of the scenes he was in, but I mean that was a guy who walked into Daenerys like tent while she was naked in the bath and threw heads at her like here's the heads of my subordinates. It's like that's what you want, and that's almost the scene that you wish that you still kind of had for this Dario because
some kind
that
of
is
scene
such
to
an
symbolize
establishing
that.
shot for like what kind of confidence and borderline arrogance this guy has.
It was like Dario Naharis was rehearsing again for Daenerys. That's the vibe you got from that first scene, and all you got was him giving her flowers, and it wasn't near as intense as him throwing heads
like
onto
a
the ground.
schoolboy love.
Exactly.
That's not like
it did not.
I deserve this woman because I'm king and captain.
Yeah.
So,
anyways, I believe that wraps up episode
there's
1.
not much else to talk about.
I mean, we had some good
episode
Tyrion
one.
scenes.
Tywin being menacing.
Oh, we didn't
melting
get to
down
the Red
ice.
Viper. We need to talk about the Red
I
Viper.
love the Viper.
The Viper.
Great,
great opening scene.
I'm already sold on the Viper.
Yeah.
You don't even need to convince me. Oberyn Martell's character, Pedro Pascal.
Perfect.
He is another perfect casting, and episode 1 proved it. Episode 2 just took it beyond. Like
he had one scene too, and an eye lock.
Yes,
in the second episode.
And I'm already like
There really isn't too much to say about it.
I cannot wait to see what he does the rest of this season.
How he interacts with some of these other people.
His 2 scenes that he had talking to Tyrion about why he's here. Tell him I'm here because the Lannisters aren't the only ones who pay their debts. Great scene. I love that scene. And then the second one talking with Tywin and Cersei, kind of slamming each other back and forth.
Slamming Tywin about how like in his land the rape and murder of women is looked down upon, and Tywin just like knows that.
My favorite part out of that though was him calling Cersei Lady Cersei.
Yeah.
Repetitively, like
no
3
longer
or 4
the queen.
times. Yeah, because she's no longer the queen.
I
thought that was great.
I'm excited because Oberyn Martell is such an interesting character that gets introduced in this in this book in Storm of Swords.
It's almost halfway through too.
Yeah, it's over.
He just kind of
it's over halfway.
It's a little under halfway actually.
And
he's just like air flighted.
But
and
there,
it's suddenly, and we're seeing it in the show too. Like he's in one scene per week, and he's right now. He's a show stealer.
Yeah,
like he
definitely.
is 100%
fun to watch.
a scene and show stealer because that's what Tyrion was at first. but now so much weight and so much emphasis has been put on Tyrion's
There's
character.
so much drama.
He's
tied
not
to him
necessarily a scene stealer because
he's the main
a
character.
central point of the show. And Oberyn Martell is now that scene stealer.
That fresh, new, really interesting, different character.
Yeah. And
that's how Martin's so good at dropping those new.
I'm very intrigued to see just how non-book readers continue to react to him as a character, because he's very interesting, and I feel like for the most part across the internet and just people that I've talked to that watch the show too, it seems like they really like Oberyn Martell. And I mean, like, I was talking to you guys before this, and our friend Mike, who's not a book reader,
Mike,
who's trying
to Merb.
Yes, Merb. He's trying to figure out the murder of Joffrey.
We can say it finally.
Yes, Joffrey's dead.
He's dead. We gotta get to that.
Yes, we'll get to that in a second. But he mentioned how he doesn't think the Martells are behind Joffrey's murder because it seems
based off the first episode, it's really easy to think that.
Yeah. And he just doesn't think that's possible, or not necessarily possible, but he doesn't think that's likely. And it's amazing how many people like Oberyn Martell already. But anyways, okay.
Yeah. Let's get to the second episode.
Second episode, blah, 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 Joffrey's dead.
Yes.
Joffrey is dead
That's all you
as
know.
Dix. He is choked out by poison. And
the Strangler, isn't that what they call
Strangler
it?
is
the
poison.
Strangler, yes.
This almost sounds like a dirty masturbation.
So,
I don't know. I guess my burning question about this scene, what do you guys think? How do you think they did it according to how the book did it? I thought they did a great job.
For me, the only thing that I wish had been different, and I understand why they couldn't do it just from like a CGI or makeup standpoint or whatever, was the same thing.
Yeah.
Yep, you're right on. Was the same thing with the Red Wedding and Catelyn.
Not clawing her cheeks out.
I wish that there had been a way that they could have shown
him clawing
at his throat. It says in the books he clawed at his throat until the muscles were showing. And I wish there was because we watched it with a few non-book readers, and they were just kind of like, "No, he's dead." And that's not the reaction. Like, okay, first of all, when Robb Stark died, that was such a huge blow because it was so unexpected.
Exactly.
And Joffrey's death was unexpected as well, but it's different because everybody who doesn't read the books has kind of this formula in their mind, like, okay, this is how I want Joffrey to die. This is what I want to happen.
A sword fight.
And I've heard people who only watch the show say they wish he would have died different, because and this kind of bugs me, because we're 4 years into this show, and people are still just not accepting when things go right. Something they want to happen just happens. It's not in their perfect scenario. Like, I've heard people say, ideally they would have want, Arya to shove needle through his heart, and
of course,
in the vengeful way.
Who doesn't want that, honestly?
But you've got to realize this is a story that, it's not going to end in your perfect, idealized way.
Obviously.
And I feel like
Stark's dead and Robb Stark's
exactly.
dead.
And I feel like 4 years into this, people should realize that and know that is not how it's going to go.
I mentioned this to you, I think, after I was reading Dance with Dragons, about 75% of the way through. You hadn't started reading. I don't think you were even
probably
through
hadn't
Storm.
started reading yet.
You hadn't started, period, I don't think.
But it was about 3/4 of the way through Dance when something happens to, we'll just say, a Lannister. You probably know where I'm going with this.
Yep.
And I said
don't say he or she. Say him.
I said how
this person.
Like, when George R.R. Martin makes bad things happen
to
bad people, he makes it worth it.
He does.
And And it's not necessarily how you picture it, and that's the beautiful thing. Like,
there's always a catch.
You hope that Joffrey gets an arrow in the heart, the head, and the penis, and that's it. Right. And he dies like getting shot in the worst 3 imaginable places.
Or flayed by Ramsay Snow.
Yeah, or flayed by Ramsay Snow. Yeah. You hope that Ramsay Snow gets flayed himself.
Yeah, but God knows who.
But that's not how it works. But when George R.R. Martin makes bad things happen to bad people, when you really sit back and look at it, it's
just
worth it.
Just take it and run.
There are, like, I would equate choking, even though it was poison, it was still, he choked.
You saw his face. He was not having fun for about 3 or 4 minutes. I mean,
choking is almost
scary,
like relational to drowning.
Yeah.
And there are few things as scary as drowning. Mm-hmm. And that's what we saw Joffrey do, is choke and be strangled to death.
Yeah, you know,
like, he lost all ability to breathe. He was bleeding out of his nose. Like, it doesn't get much
He was
worse
a scared
than
little kid in the end.
Yeah,
too.
you know, we didn't get the clawing or whatever, but that face they gave him.
Oh,
the blood, that is chilling.
The blood coming out of his
blood coming out of his nose.
Both sides, like the pigeon pie slobber out the side of his nose.
That face, it gave me. It was chills the first time.
This color was his face.
It was that purple.
It was frightening, and I think because it wasn't violent. Like, he wasn't like attached to 4 horses and have his arms and legs ripped
like,
off.
we could theorize this all day.
We could imagine a million deaths for Joffrey.
And next week's Lista, our way to make Joffrey die. Top 5.
Yeah, top 5. I'm gonna go with the Terminator 2, where he gets dipped into lava, and at the end he I don't
think he's gonna have his thumb up at the end of it.
But no, it's just I don't know what people
expected.
Expected out of
this.
Just
take.
Anyways,
he's take what you can get.
And
he's finally dead.
Suffered.
Yeah.
He suffered.
Let me ask you this, because Ben, we saw this on Twitter. You tweeted something about people saying his death was too soon.
Yeah.
Where did you see that?
Who was complaining?
Who's saying this?
I read,
because we need to address this.
It was a couple columns. I was hoping you would bring this up.
Yes.
It was a couple columns across the internet. I read
like reviews.
Reviews.
Were they book readers? Don't know.
No, they were not.
Okay.
But they were not book readers, and either way, they were. And they weren't people that were friends of ours. I'll clarify that now.
Okay.
Also.
That's good.
They were just regular columnists on various blogs and sites that I read. And one of the top, I remember the headline of the main blog that I read said, "Did Game of Thrones serve its
best?
Its cup. It said, "Did Game of Thrones serve its cup too soon?" And it was from a non-book reader, and it was talking about how since Joffrey was the biggest antagonist,
there was so much writing on him in terms of hate watching.
Yeah, and now he's dead. 2 episodes into the season,
what the heck?
And it's like, where do we go from this now? And the argument, and this just made me chuckle. In the comments was how the top comment was about how was from a book reader saying just wait, because this was such an important episode and this was such an important moment for what's to come.
It's setting
just
up so much.
Let it play out before you judge it immediately. It's easy to judge it now. Look back at the end of the season and then judge it and realize whether or not it was appropriate to have it happen now.
I didn't think about this literally until you started talking about that. I wonder if the reason some people are wary is because there was just a recent new season of a TV show that came out where they killed off a main character in the very first episode. You guys have both watched House of Cards season 2.
Oh, yeah.
And, well, spoilers if you haven't watched House of Cards Season 2.
House of Cards Season 2 spoilers.
This is your last warning.
Spoilers! Go ahead and skip ahead 30 seconds now.
Frank pushes Zoe off the train.
Yes.
Off into the train tracks.
Yes.
And I remember I was really shocked, and I walked around the room for about 5 minutes
You
trying to...
partially ruined that.
Because I reacted too much. I was just like, what?
Yeah.
And I texted you right away just out of excitement.
As soon as I saw them go down to the subway, I was like, she's not going to live.
Yeah.
I felt bad about
But
it.
yeah, kind of that whole thing, you know,
But
the rest of the season.
I remember it was a great moment. There was a great monologue at the end of that episode with Frank addressing and everything.
Yeah.
And it was a damn good episode. The problem was, Zoe was one of the most interesting characters in that show. And there was a lot writing for her in terms of the way, you know, reporting in Washington goes. There's a lot of insight through that character that they added new reporters later in the season, but it was just never the same because she was such a dynamic and very interesting character. And after that, the season wasn't that great, I'll admit. I enjoyed it still.
I haven't finished it yet, but I've heard the same. Like it's not the same.
Yeah, the first season definitely is better.
But I see why, you know, people watch that and then they see Joffrey die, who's also, first of all, Jack Gleason is an amazing character or an amazing actor.
Yeah,
it's gonna suck not having him there. Actually,
it's completely true.
He is amazing.
He's as good as anybody on that show.
Right. So to not have him now, I see why people are panicking a little bit and being a little wary. But at the same time, just keep watching. This is not going to be House of Cards season 2.
I think the biggest thing, and this is something that I read in those various blogs, and this was the thing that made the most sense out of everything that was written, was that he was such a unifying character in that everyone agreed on him. Nobody is more universally hated than Joffrey. Like
maybe Cersei?
No, nope.
But not quite.
Cersei's close. So is Tywin, and so is Ramsay Snow.
Yeah, Ramsay is probably
the
next.
Joffrey is 100% at the top, and then it's one of those three, kind of like a little bit.
Depends on its power rankings is different every week.
It really is.
It is.
But Joffrey is the least likable character in the entire show. But he's so well acted, you can't help but be excited that he's around.
And at least appreciate it.
And now he's gone, and it's like, okay, who do we focus our hatred on?
Who steps in now?
And I mean, the obvious three choices are the three that we just mentioned: Cersei, Tywin, and Ramsay Snow. Like those are the three most easily hateable characters left in the show after Joffrey. I mean, there's other hateable characters, sure, but those are the top
none of them
three.
reach that caliber that he had.
Exactly. And I think that's the one thing about all these blogs that I read that makes sense.
But they still don't know the whole picture.
They don't know the whole picture.
The story's not over.
It has only just begun.
Yes.
Yeah.
We've got 8 episodes to go.
Oh, and what a great episode.
Have faith.
8 episodes, those will be.
Have faith in D&D.
Yeah.
And George R. R. Martin. Yeah. He knew what he was doing when he wrote those last 300 pages.
So,
there's a lot that I'm curious to see how it plays out.
Yeah, definitely. Cannot wait.
And the way it's presented.
I feel there's a couple things that I enjoyed from episode 2 as well, including Tywin's dismissal of Shay.
Yes.
And how
Tyrion's, not
Tyrion's dismissal of Shay. And how that's a little different than what happened.
That's extreme. For me, that'd be extremely different. There was never that kind of confrontation.
Yeah,
you know?
I mean the night, I read the wedding chapter before that episode, and the night before the wedding, Tyrion and Shay have like this all night sexual rampage in like the dragon skull room of
I
the Red
completely
Keep.
forgot about that.
And
I did too until I read it.
Well, you know that, and I think the big change there is Shay is totally different in the books compared to the season.
It's true,
and you know they're going a different approach with that whole storyline. So.
Yeah, it's very interesting to see that just how different Shay and Tyrion's relationship is in the books as opposed to
it's more genuine.
In the show. Yeah.
Book
like
Shay,
you can see the pain in Tyrion in the show. Like he really doesn't want to lose Shay, but he realizes that it's that important that she's not
for
around
her safety.
And she, at the same time, doesn't care and
like
wants to be with Tyrion.
Yeah, and I just feel like she got to the point in that scene in episode 2 where it's just like, are you that dumb? You have just got to go.
Yeah.
It was almost frustrating. I'm like,
it's
how are you upset about this?
It's
you have
not
had
that
to
he
know
doesn't love you. Figure it out.
I know.
It's not that he doesn't. He loves you, but because he's trying to help you.
Right.
Yeah. But
silly.
Anyways, I think that is going to wrap up our Game of Thrones talk for tonight.
Yes.
I'm sure we will be talking about it in a a few weeks.
Whenever the
next couple episodes. It could
we
be
have no idea on the
3 through
timeline on the
5.
podcast.
Yeah, it could be episodes 3 through 5. It could be just episode 3, so we don't know.
Yeah.
But anyways, we're gonna switch topics here. Now we know this happened. I think 2 weeks ago.
2 or 3 weeks ago.
2 or 3 weeks ago. But How I Met Your Mother came to an end.
Finally.
Its finale. Finally, thank you. We finally met the mother. We finally know how it all met. We know everything that happened, but...
So spoilers.
We haven't talked about this.
We haven't talked about this, which is why this is good.
No,
this is going to be...
Elephant in the room.
I feel like this is going to turn our podcast from 45 minutes into an hour and 20.
We're at 35 right now.
We could talk forever about
Anyways,
this.
Elephant in the room. Not the ending we were hoping for. It
No.
was theorized so much the past 3, 4, 5 seasons.
You're just
None of us wanted to believe it.
Yeah, because we're like, why in the world would we be watching this story or listening to this story for so long if it's just going to end up being that?
It made sense. Okay, I understand. They filmed the kids 9 years ago.
Yeah, and they had to stick to it.
And because that made sense for the first couple of seasons when you really were like, Ted loves Robin.
And it's
Ted
really
clearly needs to end up with Robin.
Yeah.
Like, there was never any real doubt. And then, for me personally, I felt like around the time that Barney and Robin started, like, dating...
Second time?
No, even the first time. The chemistry between them was almost better than anything we ever saw with Robin and Ted. And
even though they didn't last long.
Even though they didn't last long, I enjoyed it more.
It was more fun.
It was more fun.
It doesn't always translate to sustainable relationships.
And then when it continued, I was like, this is way better. Like, this is way more enjoyable.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then we saw, like, the crap in season 8.
Season 8.
Where Ted was like, I'm still in love with Robin. And it's like, nobody cares.
Nobody cares, Ted.
We know that the mother is...
Ted sucked.
We know that the mother is coming.
Yeah.
And
so please just get to
it.
Stop dragging out our lives.
See, I remember, I read an article somewhere. What they really do, How I Met Your Mother is supposed to be 8 seasons originally.
Yes.
I thought it was even supposed to be 7. And I thought they got a 2-season extension.
I know that it was supposed to be at least. It was supposed to be 7.
Yeah.
Possibly
Maybe
8, but it was.
8,
I don't think it was ever supposed to be 9.
And the thing that went wrong is that season 9, we got to know the mother. We got to connect with her. We got to say
that was the mistake they made.
She was the best part of season 9, honestly.
Which is amazing because the first couple times we saw the mother, there were people on the internet, of course, who were like, "Oh, the mother sucks.
Yeah.
Like, why can't
but
we?"
she
just
was the best part of season 9.
She was great.
Yeah,
she was great.
She
I
was
love
great.
the mother
She stole
too.
every scene.
Whereas, let's say they end it, like season 6, 7, even season 8, we don't get to know the mother. We don't have that connection with her.
Yeah.
We probably would maybe like the ending more. And
when they offer in 3 minutes, and then the next scene, Ted's holding the Blue Hornet in front of Robin.
Also, if they leave out all the crap from season 7 and 8, Ted is back in love with Robin, can't get over it.
Lets it go, falls back again.
Gonna leave to Chicago. If they leave all that crap out, not falling in love with her at all.
Don't make Ted be a long-lost puppy looking for its owner.
Because after 2 or 3 seasons,
it got so
you sympathize
redundant
with them at first, but it just got really...
And
it got redundant.
You think every time, okay, the door is closed on this. There's no way it's happening, and then 2 episodes later, he's back in love with her, can't get over it.
Dude.
I'll tell you what my biggest problem was with the series finale. It wasn't even that Ted ended up with Robin.
No, because that's obviously the direction they wanted to go, so let them do that.
Yeah. And it's not like there wasn't chemistry or anything between Ted and Robin. Like
there definitely was.
My biggest problem was it was 22 episodes of one weekend for one wedding that gets a abolished
In the
within
first
30 minutes of the series finale.
True
Yeah.
story.
Like,
Yep.
it's not important and wasn't, like, we
This
just spent
whole
an
time.
entire season on something that didn't matter.
Yeah.
At all.
That's
we
what's
spent,
Do the wedding
we spent
in
almost
one
2 or
episode.
3 seasons, actually.
Yeah.
The whole Barney
It's
and
all about
Robin
Barney and
lead-up,
Robin getting together.
The lead up and the
Oh,
engagement and then the wedding. That's the
That's
8th
the
and
most
9th
frustrating
season
part.
all pissed away
Yep.
in 30 minutes of the series finale.
And those are the 2 seasons that were added on.
Yeah.
Yep.
Where they...
I mean, even season 7 wasn't that bad. It wasn't great, but it was pretty good.
It was
Season
definitely
8
the weakest, but
Season-
until
season
I think
8.
8 was the weakest.
8 was
well,
definitely
until
the
8 and
weakest.
9.
Yeah.
Like of the
Yeah.
9 was definitely better than 8. It was a step up.
What
But it was
it
pointless.
What I would
Yeah,
have...
in the end, that's why it's
That's
why
why
it's
it's
the
co-
worst.
yeah.
Really, is because it was pointless.
It was
Yeah.
pointless.
The last 30 minutes of the finale, I wish they would have taken everything that happened to them, all those years that flew by.
Mm-hmm.
I wish they would have made that the whole final season.
Well, yeah.
Exactly.
Why
yeah.
couldn't they do that?
Why couldn't they? Yeah.
I think
I
that would
mean,
have been perfect. Because
And,
you
oh,
would have...
hey. It's like, oh, hey, mother died. She's in a bed. Dead.
I feel like they could have made, if they had done that instead of spending 22 episodes on Barney and Robin's wedding and 1 hour-long episode on the next 30 years of their life, I feel like they could have made the transition of Ted from Mother back to Robin way more acceptable.
Yeah.
If they had been able to flesh out, like, how this all shakes
Happened,
out.
right.
Yeah.
Not just, oh, hey, me and Barney, yeah, we've been together 3 years, we're getting a divorce. Barney, yeah, I banged 30 girls in a month and now I've got a kid. Like, it all just happened.
Way too
Scene to
fast.
scene, like,
Yeah.
this next twist,
Yeah.
this next twist,
And you know,
this twist.
something else that really, really made me angry. Ted and Mother Tracy, they did
Yeah.
7 years
You
and
vented-
have 2 kids before they get married.
You vented
Yeah.
that to me
I
so
mean,
hard.
that just makes me angry. Ted is this guy who, like, will propose on spot if he sees you.
That's not
Yeah.
You tell me he
classic
doesn't get married for
schmozzy.
7 years and 2 kids?
Yeah.
All the gestures he did with Robin and everything. He you know, the very first date with the blue French horn and countless other things we all know about. I saw you like looking at the camera. You threw me off. But then when he re-proposes to his future wife, he's just like, "Hey, you want to get married on Friday?"
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
Are you
meaningless.
kidding
me?
It's meaningless.
Come on.
This is a guy who stuck to his romantic and emotional guns
Ugh.
for 9 seasons.
Yeah.
And then we end up with that. It was just
Makes no sense.
serious build up to
Okay.
a complete letdown.
Of all the things in the series finale, what do you think was the best moment of all?
I
Barney
think we can all-
Stinson's redemption with his baby.
Yeah,
Yep.
definitely.
I think
That
we
was-
all
Without a
agree on
doubt.
that.
That was
Without
by
a doubt.
leaps and
Yep.
bounds.
I mean,
that might
it's
have
not
been the
even
only
close.
good thing.
It
about
was
it,
was
honestly.
the only good thing.
It
Neil
really
Patrick
was.
Harris killed the scene.
Yeah.
Well,
It was
I think I also enjoyed the build up with the mother because of how we had grown to love the mother.
Oh yeah.
I
throughout the
liked
season.
all the seasons between Ted and the mother
Yeah.
in the series finale, like with their relationship growing.
I will
Even
say,
though it ended up being a cop out because of Robin and everything,
uh,
everything leading up until she was in the hospital was
Was great.
excellent
And I
because
will-
we've been just like eager for those
Right.
moments.
and I will say the actual meeting, that's another probably perfect part of that episode. The
Yeah.
meeting between Ted and the mother was great.
That
Yeah,
was,
it was
that a really
perfect.
good
I would
part.
agree.
I mean,
Yeah.
there was nothing wrong with that at all.
Yeah.
I mean, you see they're both cheesy, the yellow umbrella, everything clicks.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that was
That
awesome.
and Barney and his redemption story,
I-
the only 2 things I really like about that finale.
I don't mean to backtrack, but another thing about that Barney story that I really liked was we watched this guy for 9 seasons be, awesome, wear
Yeah.
suits, bang hundreds of chicks and
Everyone.
everything, and just be perfectly fine still.
Mhm.
But the last 30 minutes, like, kind of finally brought everyone to reality. Like, look, we know there's no way this guy in real life would be
Yeah.
this much of a winner. He hits 40 and everyone else starts looking at him as just a pathetic being who's
Yeah.
still trying to do this day to day,
Yeah.
and it makes it really sad, but it also is
Mhm.
very grounded in reality the way that ends
Yeah.
up.
I think my favorite. Okay, How about this? Because I can't think of anything. We had talked about beforehand our least would be our favorite moments from How I Met Your Mother.
Well, we're not gonna do that.
No, but I'm gonna keep it along the lines of that. Favorite moments involving the mother.
Oh man.
Or even just favorite. Because it's not necessarily a list then, but I can tell you my absolute favorite moment between these two in season 9 was the episode where they have their first date. Where he goes to her apartment, picks her up, they walk around, go to the restaurant with the... What was it? A Mexican restaurant where there's like weird music playing.
Oh yeah,
or
there's
like
a combination of weird.
Yeah, it was like Mexican Irish or something. I don't
weird
know.
heritages. Yeah.
And they're like, "Yeah, do you want to not eat here?" And they kept walking around and just like telling stories.
Right.
And then they get to her apartment like in the middle of a story, and you're like, "Wait, is the date over?" Mm-hmm. And you know it's not, but you're still like, "Wait."
You're tied into that moment. Yeah.
Like that was. For me, that was my favorite moment involving Ted and the mother in season 9, more than any of their interactions in the series finale, any of their interaction other than their meeting, which is
the meeting was perfect.
The meeting was about as good as anything in the history of the show, just because that's what you've been waiting 9 seasons for.
It felt like that saved the best for last moment.
Yeah. But aside from that one, I just loved that first episode, or the first date episode where they walked around a couple blocks. For me, that was just a really enjoyable one because it felt about as real as any moment that Ted and the mother could have.
Right.
Yeah. I'll go with mine. It's not an interaction between the mother and Ted, but it was the 200th episode, How My Mom Met Me.
Her episode.
Her episode. Just focused on her.
Great.
I loved that episode.
Mm-hmm.
It was
I
really
thought it was
refreshing.
Great. Yeah.
It was.
That was something new, and it's just about her.
That was
plenty of screen time.
Of character development for the mother as there was.
Yep, definitely. That'd be my favorite. We get the naked man, the origins of the
he comes back. I forgot about that.
Yeah, and
there's a lot of tie-ins from Ted's story into that
just
episode.
all these connections between her and Ted that just makes them perfect for each other. And so that, as far as the mother goes, that's definitely my biggest highlight from season 9, other than the actual meeting. But the finale was a huge letdown. So
those are both really good, and now I feel I'm just gonna choose a moment I like. I think I liked, this is being selfish and being nitpicky about the show again, but I liked his first proposal to her when they were on the lighthouse.
Oh, yeah.
That's the ideal, proposal that I like to pretend happened, and then they got married, actually.
Yeah.
And then they had 2 kids. It was to an Otis Redding song. I forget what it was. What was it?
I know, it was Otis Redding.
I forget the name of the Otis Redding song, but I love that song, and it was just the zoom out when he proposed to her and everything. That was a Ted moment. That was the Ted moment I was looking for when he asked her to marry him. And yeah, that was just a really nice moment, I think.
How I Met Your Mother.
It doesn't. Sorry, I didn't mean to.
Go ahead.
The finale and the whole season didn't diminish my love for it.
No,
I think.
not at all.
It's just I'd rather not watch it.
I mean, we still have all those great
How I Met Your Mother is one of the last, hopefully, it's one of the last great shows that has a laugh track on it.
Yeah, hopefully. Laugh tracks getting old.
I don't like laugh tracks, and
but it did work.
That's what made me not watch that show for the first 5 seasons. And then I finally watched it, and I was like, why haven't I watched this show before now?
What am I doing?
Yeah, you have all the just tiny little things you learn, like the slap bet, Robin Sparkles, Legend, wait for it,
I liked when the last one came, like at the altar.
Yeah, awesome. All Barney's cool little quirks, like suit up.
Those were the things that pulled you in at first.
Exactly,
the elaborate little like things that they would do, or little like facts, or
like
principles
general nature,
they follow. Yeah,
you know, just
little things
like that.
True,
you take so many things away from it.
True story. For those of you who don't know me, I work at a radio station, and there's a thing that we have there called sponsor cards, where we have to say like, this weather forecast is being brought to you by blah blah blah, and one of the sponsor cards reads, how they're like, do deer accidents cause major damage to your vehicle? Every single time I read major damage, in studio, I salute while I continue to read the rest of the card, but I always say major damage and then salute and keep going. And it's because of this show. It's just little quirks like that that are just fantastic.
And I mean, there are so many of them. We could go on for days about them.
We've done slap bets.
High five. Yes, we've done slap bets. I've won. It was awesome.
I remember watching those videos.
Yes.
It hurt.
Just all those little quirks, I think that's definitely what I take away from How I Met Your Mother.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a great show. I'll still watch it season 1 to 9.
It's
probably.
definitely it's in the vein of like Friends and Scrubs and whatnot, in that like it's Office. One of those that and The Office, that like when you catch an episode of it in syndication on TBS or whatever, you're not going to change the channel. You're going to watch it. You're going to watch back-to-back episodes of that, even with no context to the story. Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's how I first actually watched the show. Was on FX. I watched like an episode from season 4, and I was like, yeah, this is funny. And it wasn't enough to draw me in at the time, but it was like, it was enjoyable. Yeah. And now that I've watched the whole series, like, this is...
Thanks to Netflix.
Yes.
Thank you, Netflix.
Yes.
We're giving you some free advertising.
Yes. So. I'm sure they need it. I'm trying to think, is there anything else we need to cover in this episode?
I don't think.
Did we cover enough Game of Thrones? We covered enough
Game of Thrones.
How I Met Your Mother.
So. Nothing that I can think of. I think I know we didn't really touch on the other scenes in episode 2 besides besides the royal wedding.
Yeah, we did finally see our first Bolton scene.
And the Dreadfort.
Yes, in the Dreadfort.
Roose is loose. Yeah, we got the Dreadfort. We got Bran beyond the wall in the weird scene of weird.
That was awesome.
That was very good. I know there's some dance parts that we're really looking forward to.
That will probably show up this season.
But I mean, other than that, I don't.
That was pretty much it, I think.
Yeah. So. Right. I guess that wraps up our episode 2. We come in at a whopping 52 minutes.
Hey. Assuming successful. After editing that nothing gets cut out.
Assuming.
So 52 minutes without editing.
Yeah. Well, I guess we're going to sign off from here.
Yes.
Thank you for joining us, whoever watched all the way
I hope you watched the whole thing this time.
Hopefully.
Didn't get caught at like, an hour and a half. Yeah. Like, you watched the whole thing.
We should like make it where if someone gets to the very end of this, we like say a secret word, and if they text us or
give
tweet us that secret word, we'll like give giveaways or something.
Or how about you text us? You can be one of them.
The only thing is they can skip right to the end.
Or say a secret from Game of Thrones.
Oh, we could give hints. We could give hints.
Do they want hints?
I
would not want anything to be spoiled though.
What about a hint for the royal wedding with like help for how Joffrey died?
Like clues?
I can't help. Clues? Yeah. How about whoever's watching this? You text one of us. What's our secret word? We need a good secret word.
Dantos.
Dantos. D-A-N-T-O-S.
D-O-N.
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 Dantos. Text one of us. Dantos. We will give you a hint.
I might cry if someone actually texts us. I might cry.
Not that the secret word wasn't a hint already.
Yeah.
We'll give you another hint. Yeah. Dantos was a hint
already.
You
can easily suspect that, though, with him pulling Sansa away.
I don't know. Anyway.
It did have something to do with it.
I think that's us signing off, though.
All right. Chase. Ben. I'm Tyler.
Follow us on Twitter. If
we are on Twitter. We're not Geeks in Suits. We all have our own Twitter.
Yes, we do.
You should make it Geeks in Suits.
I think I will. Do we have a website, like a WordPress?
I made one, but
You know what? Maybe I'll.
We're not
make
that
one.
mainstream
Anyway.
yet, guys. Let's
get
slow it
through.
down.
Let's get through like 6 or 7 episodes,
We'll be coming,
and then go crazy.
We will be coming at you on all sorts of fronts lately.
But for now, it's on all our personal
follow us.
stuff.
I'll put our Twitter
We'll
handles up
retweet
if
the
anyone
crap out of
wants to
stuff.
follow
Yeah.
us.
Yes.
So,
We'll
yep.
repost.
I guess
We're
that's us signing
All
off.
right.
Thank you for being here.
Alrighty.
Deuce.
See you guys.
Later.